because I did have some notes on what I was going to talk about. But if you saw my Instagram post, and that's anyway.
No, I didn't. Okay. Bamba chiki boom buckady. All right, we're happy days. Good.
Yay, we are here.
Well, it's not really good day. It's whatever time of day it is
That you're listening to us.
that you're listening to us. But welcome to the Wholehearted Living podcast with
Valerie
and Benny.
Hi, Benny.
Hi, Valerie.
And Iggy's here too.
Iggy
Hello.
is here too. Hello, Iggy. Iggy.
I forgot I have to be close to the mic. Hello.
Hello, that's right. And loud, yeah.
People are like,
Some of
"Wait,
our listeners are like, Iggy, does he do
I
this
need
underwater?
a hearing aid when Iggy talks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just the voice in everyone's head.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly.
I'm not really there.
That should be a podcast one day. We talk about the
Ooh,
voices in our
the
heads.
voice in everyone's head. You know what's really funny? One day I said to...
You know what's really funny is The Office is pretty funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
That's
Was that
so
what you
good.
meant?
No.
Oh.
What's really funny is one day I said something about having a party in my head, and somebody that was here.
What?
I said I have a party in my head, and you made fun of me
I did?
because you said you have a party in your head. That sounds like you're on something.
Oh, I did?
Well, maybe it wasn't here. Was it here, Iggy?
Iggy, do you remember this?
This sounds familiar.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
It might have been in a podcast.
I think it was.
Or it might have been one of those before we started conversation.
Yeah,
Banter. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But anyway, I always feel like, if something makes me happy and I start like kind of just dancing, being my own little world at work or whatever, and then they're like, oh my gosh, look at you. And I'm like, well, I have a party in my head. And it just makes me laugh because you're talking about the voices in your head.
In your head, yeah. Well, what's funny is now in therapy, I talk about voices in our head and what's
Yeah.
the story that we're telling ourselves and
Yeah.
this kind of a thing. And it's kind of funny because I have to be really careful though, because some people have voices
in their head.
It's like you want to be careful that you're not talking about those kind of voices,
Right.
which is a very different thing. But
Right.
everybody has voices in their head.
Yes.
I mean,
and it's,
yeah. If you don't, that's probably a different
Yeah.
condition.
and sometimes,
So I'm not sure what that would be called, but anyway.
yeah.
So how are you?
I'm really good. I'm good. I have had really bad allergies the last few weeks or the last few days. I actually thought I was getting sick, but it really, and so the funny thing is when I mentioned on my Instagram that my allergies were so bad, I had the most DMs I've ever had in my life. Just kidding. But so many people were like, oh my gosh, mine are so bad right now. Mine are so bad. And just going on and on. Then I spoke to a friend who has, something pollen triggers her asthma. So she looks on this particular app for the pollen count. And she said the pollen count is extremely high right now. Highest it's been in years.
Well, you know
so
what's
then
funny?
That made sense.
So when I got the scratch test years ago, 20 years ago more probably, I'm allergic to everything, like everything. It was really bad. Like the doctor walked in and looked at my back and said, oh my goodness, because you're allergic to everything. And when Patty took a picture so I could see it, or maybe it was a mirror thing. I don't know if we had cameras in those days. Whenever, that's how long ago it was. It was so long ago that it wasn't like the cameras were all
Oh, I see what you're
readily
saying. She
available.
put a mirror up so you could see it.
So I could see it.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is that it looked like somebody had beat me because they put a little blue or a little ink mark to indicate which thing you're allergic to, and then they put a little scratch right on that mark or right above it or whatever. Mine was just solid.
Yeah.
The whole back
Everything
was
was
just
yeah.
solid. And he was like, oh man, you were allergic to everything. But now that you say, what's funny is you asked me before the podcast, are your allergies going crazy? And I told you no. But what's funny is at the beginning of this week, I was feeling sick. I thought I was feeling sick. And now that you're saying that, and then it went away.
Right.
So now I'm wondering if I was actually just dealing with allergies.
Yeah. Because it brought me to a place where I was like, gosh, what's happening? But no other symptoms but typical allergy symptoms. My eyes, my nose, my throat, itchy eyes. And then of all days, we have a earthquake drill, and then so everybody drop under the desk. Then we all go outside on the field for an hour.
Wow.
It was
long earthquake.
Because they were mock playing what would happen if there was an earthquake. So they had parents at the gate trying to get their kids, and we had to have students go sign the kid out so that they could go, but they really didn't go. This was literally a mock drill. It was so weird. But anyway, They mowed the grass that morning.
Oh, geez.
And they don't pick up the grass.
No.
It's loose grass everywhere. So
Right.
the kids sitting on the grass waiting for an hour are playing with the grass, and they're throwing it up in the air, and that was the first day of like the day that I felt like, oh my God, what's happening with me? And so it made my allergies even worse that day.
Yeah. Well, now that, you know, what's funny is you told me I don't, you know, are your allergies bothering you? And what's really funny right now is, so yes, my throat hurts. My throat hurts a lot.
Now you're like, oh,
because
yeah.
when I'm, of course I talk a lot for my job. And so I was thinking it was that, but even after the second session, I was starting to, my throat was, you know, hurting. And then, but see, now this is something, my eyes water pretty much every time I'm outside. It's like, it doesn't take me
I'm the
very
same.
long. It's like, so I don't even think of that as allergies. I mean, it is allergies, but I don't think of it as high pollen count. I think of it as the sun rose, you know?
Right.
So it's like,
no, because my eyes
it's
water
like,
in the sun too. I always have to sunglasses on. No, but just extra special.
Yeah.
Extra special. And the itchy. Like I just had to felt like I had to gouge my eyes.
well, it's funny because Patty, because I live with it so much, I think Patty notices it more often than I do. We were at Steph's, you know, this past weekend, and I'm allergic to cats, and they have a cat, you know, and it was so funny because I was sitting there going like this, I was like going like this whole time, and then finally Patty goes, "Wash your hands and wash your face," and I was like, "Oh yeah," but I just don't even think about it. And you mentioned asthma, so when they did the scratch test, they also did a blood test with me, and that's when they found out that I have asthma. Like I have a certain amount of asthma, and basically I wouldn't be surprised if you have asthma at some level. It's like almost everybody who has allergies at a high level. I'm not going to talk like I'm a doctor, but apparently what I was told is if you have high allergies, it's almost always the case that you have asthma. Like there's something up with your lungs.
Interesting.
So it's weird for me because I have asthma, but I still work out. I still do things. But I will say there are times when I'm like, especially when I'm sick. I notice it when I'm really sick, not like this past week, but when I'm really sick, I have to use an inhaler. That's the only time I practically have to use an inhaler, when I have to cough, because a lot of times when you're coughing, you have you know,
phlegm.
Mucus, you have phlegm, you have stuff in your lungs even that's making your capacity less. And a person with asthma is already less. And so, so what's interesting is that when I'm have a cough or that kind of a thing, then I have to use an inhaler, and it's probably about 10 years old. That's you're not supposed to use it, but the truth is like I don't get them renewed. I just keep. Some doctor is gonna DM us.
I
and
know.
Say, that thing doesn't work anymore,
toxic.
dude. Yeah, exactly. That's why you look the way you do.
Well, you want to hear a funny story?
No, I don't like.
I said that already, and then you mentioned The Office.
Yeah,
but remember?
No, you said you want to hear something
funny.
Do you want to know something funnier? And then I told you The Office is funny.
Well.
See, my story
Remember
is better.
when I told you that I got a new dog, and she would be so cute to bring and sit on my lap, because she just sits on my lap and she doesn't make a sound.
Yes.
Well, now that she could come over and play with your dog, I couldn't bring her here during a podcast like we could for fun.
Right.
Because she's a spaz.
Hey,
She is a spaz. She will not sit on your lap, and if she does sit on your lap, she's licking your face or playing with my hair and jumping all over and bouncing off the, So
she's a puppy.
She's a puppy.
Yes.
But it was funny because I had to lock her in the dining room to come over, and I was like, oh, I wish I could bring you, but you're a spaz.
Yes, exactly. I'm telling you, that dude over there, where's our dog? I don't know where he is.
Right there.
But he, man, it's so funny because people can't picture him like this, because now basically his life is, sleep, poop, and eat. That's basically what he does. And he's so old now, I can't even really play with him. I used to play with him.
That's
and
what
he
I
can't
was
really
telling Kylie, because she goes, oh my gosh, she's such a spaz. Nobody's getting tired of her, but we're just like, oh my gosh, we just want to sit down for 5 minutes without you. Or, she's like jumping at us and bringing the toy and this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, I go, this is kind of short lived when you really think about it, because after a couple of years, even though a couple of years will be a long time like this, they chill.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, why aren't you going and grabbing the toy? Why
exactly.
aren't you, so we're
yeah. And it took him 3 years, and then he really chilled out, still was willing to play and wanted to play, and you could grab something and throw it and he'd chase it and do all that stuff. And he still occasionally does that. But seriously, if I throw something 10, 15 feet 3 times, he goes underneath his table and
He's like,
starts
"I'm
coughing
over
his
this."
brains. It's like, it's like, this is ridiculous, man. What are you trying
Well,
to do?
at least
Kill
he
me?
even Buttercup would look at us like, really? Why did you just throw the toy way over
Why don't
there?
you just leave it here. I'm
She
right
didn't even
here.
have a clue that she was supposed to chase it. It was so funny.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty funny. That's pretty good. But yeah, no, now he's pretty chill. He doesn't really like to do much. So that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
But it is fun to have a dog. I'm really glad that you guys did get a dog again.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that it's going to be like, I hope that she is going to calm down.
She will. She's fun. She makes us, she brings joy to the house.
Yeah. Does she eat stuff, choose things, you know?
Yeah.
Like she ruins stuff?
She did actually kind of ruin a pillow, but she learns quickly. Because when you say no, she looks at you like, oh, okay. It's weird. But she does chew on stuff. But that's why we have all the toys out. I used to be the person that was like, keep the toys away until it's time to play with toys. And now I'm like, just leave them everywhere so she knows what to grab.
Well, what's funny is that he is a really good dog about eating. He pretty much eats any food that's on the ground. But his one big thing that is such a pain in the butt is paper. He loves paper.
He's
yes.
not even a pup.
So it's irritating if you go into our bathrooms, if you go into our bedrooms, if you go anywhere, everything is up high. That's why people go in our toilet and they don't understand why the trash can's on top of the toilet. But it's because he will find it. He will find it and get in there, and he actually will. And we put lids on. We bought the ones with lids on it thinking, okay, we're good.
Right.
No, he figured out how to push it over so that the lid, so it opens up, and then he eats the paper.
Huh.
So yeah, we just are like, whatever, this is our life. One day when he's not here, we're going to be like, oh, we could put those down. That's a novel idea. And then the other thing is anything wet. So what I mean by that is sometimes people come over and they'll stay over and they leave their suitcase down here or something, and then their toothbrush is out because they just used it. They don't want to bury it, and then it's like, oh, that thing's gone, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, because he'll eat it.
Huh.
So I know that's weird.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
You should journal about it.
If you just bored everybody talking about dogs.
I know. Well, everybody loves dogs. I
know.
You know, I put on Instagram one time. It was a joke, and but it was a true. It was something I was really thinking about, the fact that dogs just enjoy the present. They just enjoy their life in the present. And I did this little thing. I can't remember exactly what I did. Anyway, I did this video of the dog while I was talking over it, and it, whatever, something about wholehearted living. Right?
Yeah.
And I got so many views.
I know, isn't that funny?
Like, it's so funny. I'm like, serious?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, you put a dog in it, man. It's like, the other thing you do is you pretend like you lost somebody and they died.
I remember that happened too. When you said I lost Patty and everybody was like messaging
how
you.
did I didn't say I lost Patty. Do you remember exactly what I said? But I just said she's not here. I miss her.
I think you said something like Patty's gone.
Patty's gone.
She was out of town or
yeah,
something.
she's gone, like out of town. I said, Patty's gone, and I'm sad because I'd like to do this and that and the other, but I'm going to blah, 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 and I'm going to press on. And all of a sudden I got hundreds of comments and like 10,000 views saying, which is, for me, 10,000 was huge. And I was like, man, stick it in there, buddy. Stay. And I didn't have the guts to say, dude, like she's gonna be back Saturday.
Right.
It's like, I was like, how do I do that? So
God.
yeah, that was
That's funny.
pretty sad. I didn't do it intentionally. I wasn't trying to be dramatic.
Right.
I was just being
the
real
choice of
at the
words,
time.
and
At the time I thought it was
so
funny.
funny.
Yeah. So anyway. Anywho, we didn't say this, but this is the podcast where one of us comes in with a topic and the other one has no clue. And today is Valerie's topic, and she's been studying this one for a long time. If you guys want to, I would suggest you guys get a pad and paper, because she's going to have all kinds of facts and papers and books that you can look up.
It's so sad because, it's funny. I know some of you on YouTube can see this, but you that hear it don't know this. But I come in with like my notebook with written notes and stuff, and you have your iPad and you do it all on that. But I forgot my notebook today.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a whole lot of. I know the topic I brought up a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I did like some research about it, and there wasn't a whole lot that I had done in terms of that, but I did have my notes on what I wanted to talk about. So I'm just going to bring it up and then we'll just chat.
Yeah.
Which is what we usually do anyway.
Yeah.
So now I have to look at my notebook to see what the title was.
All right. Well,
Join us next week, my friends. No, just kidding.
Oh, gosh.
No, okay, really, I actually did an Instagram post about this on the Wholehearted Living. So we actually have an Instagram now, if you don't know.
Yeah.
It's Wholehearted Living. And I mean, we're just going to share things.
Isn't it Wholehearted Living Podcast?
It is.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But anyway, I did a post on this in that Instagram account. And basically what it is, and we might have already touched on this in one of our other podcasts, but everything that I usually bring up with us is something that has either struck me or I've had conversations about it, and then it just stays in my head. And then I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. And this is what happened with this topic. And so it was about, I was on the ground. I work with special needs children. So a lot of times I sit crisscross applesauce on the ground with the student. So I happened to be on the ground, and I got up when the student jumped up to leave. I jumped up and followed. And then a little bit later, this person saw me, and they saw me bending down to talk to him, or squatting, I should say. And then, you know, he started running, and I stood up and started running after him. And somebody said to me that day, I hope, like, you are my, not my mentor. What is it?
Hero?
Goal. You're my goal. And I'm like, she goes, when I'm your age, I hope that I can get up as fast as you. I hope that I could squat like you do, and blah, blah, blah. Now, that said, this person and I have had several conversations about the fact that she doesn't do anything today to be able to do that today.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I wanted to, I mean, and it was a great, like, I appreciated what she said. I said, thank you so much.
That's kind, because she's recognizing that you're in, I don't know if you want to say you're in shape, although you are, but I mean, you're healthy.
Yeah.
You're healthy.
And so my point when I wrote my Instagram post was, there are things that we might say that we want for ourselves. Okay, so she's probably in her 30s, maybe early 40s, but I don't even know. But, you know, and here I am teetering on 60. I'm 59. And for her to say, oh, I'm her goal to get to be, you know, 59 and be able to do that. And I want to say, but I'm just going to say this. I don't know if she's 39, but you're 39. Can you do it now?
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you need to start acting now, because at 58, you're not going to suddenly be able to do this at 59.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that was my whole purpose for the podcast was, where do you see yourself a year from now? Like, and again, I know it always ends up turning into some kind of, like, you know, if it's a fitness thing or whatever, but where do you see yourself a year from now? And if you're saying, well, a year from now, I'd like to be further in my job. A year from now, I'd like to be further on my health journey. For a year from now, I'd like to have a better relationship with my husband. But what are you doing today? What are the actions you're taking today to be able to see that fruit then?
You know what's funny is when I used to preach and stuff, or teach even, I guess I don't know if I did this when I preached, but what I would ask people is, I would say, what do you want to be said at your funeral? Mm-hmm. And then I would say, so what are you doing now? So that's said about you.
Exactly.
So in other words, if you want to be kind, if you want to be a good father, if you want to be, you know, a good friend, if you want to be.
That's really, really
so yeah.
sound advice.
Yeah. So what are you doing now to ultimately accomplish that goal? Because if you're not, if you're just saying, this is what I want to be said, but in the meantime I'm gonna just do my own thing, I'm not gonna care about my kids, I'm not gonna care about my wife, you know, she just needs to do this, you know, my focus right now is, you know, my job, or you know, this is it. What's interesting about this topic is it opens the door for a lot of things, I reckon, but my when you like think about it, the fact that there are people out there that are listening, and everybody has probably some kind of objective right now.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, I'm going to talk about a young man, because that's what I'm not a young man, but I mean, I was. And so, the thing is that what's really interesting, the way the man works in their brain, and I'm not saying every man has its exact same philosophy, but my thought was, okay, I really want to I really want a family. I really did want a family. That was important to me. So I had an objective of getting a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hate to make it sound like that, but that's true. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I was like proactively looking like and doing, we didn't have the
dating apps.
Stuff, but it was more like, I would love for this to happen, and I'm very open to it happening. And in the meantime, I was going to school and trying to figure out who I was and whatever, and trying to identify, okay, what kind of things make me excited and what do I want to do for the rest of my life. Then Patty comes along, and we met in September. We started dating in December, which is really not, or January, which is really not totally true. We were dating before that, but I was dating another woman. You know the whole story.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really great
It's
podcast.
funny that you called her a woman because she was a girl. Because like you were so young.
Yes, I was.
But anyway,
because we were 20.
Yeah.
We were 19 when we met, 20 when this all took place, and so in January we started dating. In March we were engaged. In December we were married.
Right.
And so. But what's interesting is it was like, okay, this is my goal, for lack of a better word. This is what I'm going to do. And then what's really weird is you kind of switch and you go, okay, now my goal is to get my career going. And what's weird for men, at least, is that like our little brains don't do both at the same time at times.
Right.
And so it's like, well, I accomplished that goal. Yeah. And I put the, you put the check mark by it.
Yeah.
And then now you start pursuing the career. And then you start forgetting that here's your family. You still need to take care of, this relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't want to act like I completely abandoned it, because I didn't. But I will say you start focusing on other stuff. And then once you start getting in your career, then now you start saying, well, is this the right career? Do I want, maybe you start thinking about money, or in my case, I started thinking about, like, for lack of a better word, power or influence. I wanted more influence. And so what can I do? And how can I do that? And And so you're constantly trying to achieve, and you're not taking in the grand scope of things. You're just trying to check a box next to each little goal. And I think a lot of people kind of think like that, but then the story that's told about you at your funeral isn't necessarily the story that you wanted to be told.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. And I think that you're right when you said that this can open the door to a lot of different things, because, some people can, I know I don't like to compare, but like, let's just say you look at somebody's marriage and you're like, gosh, they look like they have a really good marriage. They look like they have a really good friendship. And I'm saying that about myself, actually, to be honest with you, because I feel like Peter and I have a good marriage. I think we have a really good friendship. But let's just say I'm looking at somebody else and thinking, oh, I don't have that with my man. I really want that. Like, well, what am I doing to get that?
Yeah.
Like, am I just going to keep looking through the window and watching other people have that good marriage? Or am I going to try in some way to make my marriage what I want it to be? And these are all like the little steps that you need to take. I mean, these aren't, because I don't know what steps you need to take, but I'm just saying, like, what steps are you taking to get that? Like, I guess for myself, if I saw somebody having a really good marriage that I did not think I had, I would maybe go to counseling, or I would maybe
get a relationship coach, or get somebody, or get a therapy,
or read a book together. I mean, I've seen many books where you can just sit down and open the book and answer questions and say, well, what do you think about this question? And you answer it together, and then you start communicating in a different way, or, making a plan to have a date night, and just kind of rekindling things that you may have once had. But I don't think that anybody's going to get to the marriage that they think that they want to have unless you start taking actions and steps to do that.
Well, and I guess what you're saying is it doesn't happen by osmosis. It's not like it's just, you
can wish it all you want, you can hope for it all you want, and you can,
but it's not going to happen to you. I this is funny, because one thing, I might have said this in a previous podcast, but it was a long time ago. So unless you're like super dedicated, but what's funny is I used to always pray for my kids and who they're going to date and who they're going to ultimately marry and stuff. And I'll never forget, I have a tendency to do this. Like, if I have a mindset of what I want in a person, then I start to talk about the kind of action that person will take for my daughter. And I remember one time thinking, you know what I want? I want a man, or men, Iggy, that...
I know, I was like, Iggy, are you listening?
But I want someone who respects my daughter. Like that's really important to me, that they actually respect and see the value of my daughter. And then the action that took place was, I want them to have I want them to be the kind of person that opens the door for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't want to get into this idea that women can't open their door and men are better. Da, da, da. That's not my point at all. And it's just the fact that the man is saying, not that she's weak, because my kids are not weak.
Neither one of your daughters are weak.
No.
Yeah.
So they're not weak, but just saying, I really so much care about you. It's kind of like, I'm going to throw my jacket on the pond so that they can walk on the
rain puddle.
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's just like a symbol of it when they open the door at the car or whatever. And then I said to myself, I'm not opening their doors, and I don't open my wife's door. How in the world will they ever have that mindset? And literally from that day forward, I don't know that my kids remember a time when I didn't open the door for Patty or
well,
or
now you're
them.
setting your son-in-laws up for failure, though, because if you always opened your daughter's doors, then they're going to be like, hello, why aren't you opening my door?
Did Trinity do that to you?
No, but it's funny.
What's funny?
Because then sometimes we're walking to the car and then she's just standing by the door, and then I'll mess with her and purposely walk to the driver's side.
Oh, okay.
First,
And she's still
and
standing
she's
there.
looking at me like, what? What's going on?
But did you open the door before she told you that she was going to beat the crap out of you?
I want to say I did.
Yeah, I think you did.
I don't remember a time that I didn't.
Yeah, I think you did, because I think she even said that to me.
You know what's funny? Peter used to always open the door for me until we got the car that you just unlock it with the key.
Oh, right.
And now it's like we both just like, you go, and we both just get in.
See, I knew I hated Peter. I'm kidding.
But he always, he would just race to the door to open it for me. And then even if I started to go open it, he goes, I got it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Incidentally, I am not trying to make a statement that the only way that you show respect to a woman is by opening her door. What I'm saying is, I said to myself that I wanted this for my kids, and I realized I wasn't doing it. So why in the world would that be an expectation for them? And so my point goes along with what you're saying, which is, if you want something to happen, you have to take action for it to happen. It doesn't just happen.
Well, and again, like going back to the girl that said, wow, you can sit on the ground. If I sat on the ground, I would never be able to get back up, or, I need somebody to help me pull me up. And it's like, you're my goal, and it's like, or goals or something like that is what she said. And I was like, but what are you doing today?
Right.
So that you can do this when you're my age,
right.
know? And so, and that's, I didn't have that long conversation with her about it, but that was where it started triggering things in my mind. Like, you cannot just say, oh, your goals, and then not do anything about that.
Right.
Like, you have to take the baby steps. And, there's that old saying, or that little, I don't know what it is, but, it takes a long time after you plant the seed, you don't see the flower the next day.
Right.
It takes time to bloom and grow and bloom into a flower. So you're not going to be that flower that first day. You need to keep feeding it, and you need to keep watering it. And that goes to anything that you want for yourself, no matter what goal it is, if it's getting off the floor or being a good cook or being a good wife or being a good mom. Like, you have to start planting the seeds right now and watering that every single day to get to be where you're fully bloomed.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
drop.
It. Mic drop.
Just kidding.
Yeah, no, I really do. I agree with you. So I'm glad that you did this. I'm glad that we discussed it. I think it's super helpful that if you're sitting out there right now, you're listening, or you're walking out there, or you're whatevering out there, that whatever it is that you hope, and maybe the phrase to leave with is, what do you want people to say about you?
I love that.
Then what are you doing for that to take place?
Yeah.
What is it that you are currently doing so that people will say that about you? Whether it be, I'm going to be a great worker, I'm going to be, I'm going to be really, I don't care what the goal is. If you want to be really wealthy, then what are you doing to achieve your wealth? If you really want to be, really generous, then are you being generous with what you currently have?
Right.
Rather than saying, okay, once I have a lot of money, then I'm going to be generous. Yeah.
Yes.
It's always funny when I hear people say, oh, if I had a bigger house, we'd be more hospitable. And I'm always like, no, you wouldn't. Because hospitality is way more to do with your mind than it does with your.
Sure.
So it's like you if I had a cleaner house or better, this.
Well, my
and that
God,
and the
you
other.
guys are, I mean, honestly, you guys have the pretty small house and you always are having people over.
Yeah.
And you're not only having people over, you have people come over and stay over. And there's like, I mean, literally like weekends or weeks, you know what I mean? But
we do. We have people that stay. And then we've had parties here in this very room, which is funny if you saw it, of 40 people.
Yeah.
And like, how, I don't know how it happens. Our air conditioner always freezes over, but but the point is, it's just that you have to make do with what you got. And I think from if you're a spiritual person out there, I think there's like, when you start doing that, that's when it's like, oh, if you're being a good steward with what you got, I'll give you more.
Yeah.
And so
but
I think that's
I think
important.
that you're right. I think that it's like whatever it is that you want for yourself. How do you see yourself in X amount of days or X amount of years? And take it further. What do you want to be said about you at your funeral? It's like, well, you got to start making that happen today and taking the steps forward to do that.
That's it. So nice. Not too bad for a no notebook. Hey, by
I'm
the way,
going to go home and look at my notebook and go, oh man, I was going to say that. Oh man.
I will say this. If you're going to do a podcast, remember your notebook. Okay. So that's what you need to know.
All right. Well, this was a short but sweet. Was it short? I don't even know.
No, it's really not that short.
Oh.
So right now everybody's going, this was short. Jesus.
I know.
I'm dying. Okay. But anyway, I'm Benny.
I'm Valerie.
And we are at Wholehearted Living Podcast. So we want to encourage all of you to go there. Please subscribe, sign up for YouTube and or Spotify. Because
if you like what you hear, share it.
And forward our podcast, Doohickey, to other people.
Yes.
I wish I knew the words. So anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of our team. Thank you, Iggy, so much for keeping us on check our sound. Thank you. Thank you.
Much.
What do you have to say, Iggy? You got to say it out loud.
Thank you for listening.
Very nice.
A man of many words.
Yes, a man of many words, and I just I sprung it on him. Anyway, thank you guys. I'm Benny.
I'm Valerie. Bye.
And we'll see you next time.
Oh, okay, no, we're late. Okay, bye.
Ciao.